Thank you.
सुरु भयो ल भयो भयो
Thank you so much. नमस्कार सबै यहाँहरूलाई थ्याङ्क यू सो मच. यस्तो लेट आवरमा पनि यहाँहरू अमेरिकामा लेट आवर अनि नेपालमा चाहिँ अर्ली आवर हाम्रो यो टाइम चाहिँ एकदम अड टाइम छ क्या. थ्याङ्क यू सो मच. आज चाहिँ हामीले यो ब्याकवर्ड कोर्स डिजाइन मोडलमा इन्टरेक्सन गरौँ भनेर मैले एउटा भिडियो पनि सेयर गरेको थिएँ. अघि मैले फर्स्ट 2 मिनट चाहिँ प्ले गरेँ त्यो भिडियो. त्यो चाहिँ त्यहाँ सेयर गरेको छु मैले त्यो इमेलमा. whenever you have time you can watch. So let me share my screen and go to my slides. So optimize for that. Um, so is the screen good, sir?
Yes, sir, we can see it.
Very nice, thank you. So this is the second meeting on innovative teaching and scholarship of teaching and learning. So today I decided to do a backward course design model because in the United States the new academic year is starting soon, and probably this is at the right time. Like, so actually I mentioned in the beginning that uh, the this meeting will happen on the last Friday of English month. But because of, again, the start of academic year from next week, I mean, most of the universities and colleges, so we preponed this program by 1 week. Okay, as I mentioned in the last meeting, my title has changed from August 15th. That is my new title. Okay, so this was the flyer we distributed. Thank you, CR sir and ANPA committee for designing the slide and distributing. And again, I would like to remind you who will benefit from these meetings. Graduate students, postdocs who are interested to make their career as a faculty, and new faculty members. But we know learning process starts at birth and continues throughout our life. So every one of us will learn something new from these interactions. So before I start this backward course design model, as in the previous meeting, I would like to thank my friends. Of course, first thank is to ANPA for giving this platform to me, and my friends, Dr. Ramesh Tungana from University of Colorado, Denver, Dr. Krishna Sigdal from Cal Poly Pomona, and Dr. Mahendra Thapa from California State University, Chico. Like every Saturday, we do phone calls and discuss on these topics and these kind of topics. What is the backward design model, right? So this is basically a framework in which we design our course. That may be daily lesson, or that may be a whole course. So the backward course design model is a framework of a course design in backward direction. Learning outcomes, assessment plans, and pedagogical activities. So in general, what we do is forward design. What does that mean? We take a textbook, we start from chapter 1, we teach, we assess, and we see what the students learn, or like that. That is kind of forward design. So here, this new, not very new, but relatively new technique is as I showed you in the video. The video is attached. Video was attached in the email. If you haven't got an opportunity to watch, please watch later. So this is first find the uh, outcomes. That means identify the learning outcomes. By the way, this definition is from Wiggins and McTighe, Understanding by Design, in ASCD 1998. So first identify the learning outcomes. So what learning outcomes, what objectives or what goals we would uh, like to achieve, right? So that is the first step in backward course design model. And then in the second step, make assessment plans to measure that the learning outcomes were achieved, right? So what are the assessment plans? Want to make ask making some model or tests or quizzes, kind of assessment plans you design. And the final is design suitable learning activities to achieve the learning outcomes. Right. So these three steps show the backward design model. So first find the identify the objectives or goals or learning outcomes that you are going to deliver in the class, and what kind of assessments you will do uh, for those to achieve those learning outcomes. And finally, design suitable learning activities, maybe lecture or the projects, whatever, right? So I'll give you an example in this meeting. So yeah, this link here in YouTube is the video uh, from video that I attached in the flyer. So when we talk about learning outcomes, right? So we need to have some kind of uh, knowledge on writing uh, the learning outcomes or objectives, and that was uh, given by Benjamin Bloom in 1956, called Bloom's taxonomy. So Bloom's taxonomy is a scheme of writing educational objectives, right? What are the educational objectives or outcomes, learning outcomes in a particular class, right? So that was uh, that is the here I have given the reference. So this pyramid is extremely important in writing the learning outcomes or educational objectives. So in this pyramid, the lowest level is the I mean, like this shows a kind of cognitive complexity going from bottom to the top, right? So lower level skills are toward the bottom, and the top level skills are toward the top. So while going from bottom towards the top, the complexity increases. So the bottommost is remember, right? So that is basically, it has been defined on the side here: recall facts and basic concepts, right? So for example, define, duplicate, or list, or memorize, or repeat, or state. For example, I believe most of us in the audience are physicists, right? So or at least like science students, right? So we know Coulomb's law, for example. So if we are to teach Coulomb's law, then state Coulomb's law, right? So that is kind of straightforward. Most of these introductory courses, basically the lower three objectives are mostly measured, right? Remember, and if we go to the next level, that's understand, right? That is the second level here. So explain ideas or concepts. Once the learner remembers, like for example, um, let's talk about Coulomb's law, right? So state Coulomb's law, that is the lowermost level, right? And if we ask, explain Coulomb's law, right? So what is our expectation? Force between two charges depends upon, let's say, the product of charges, for example, depends upon square of the distance, is inversely, like so larger the distance, if the distance becomes two times, like force becomes 1/4, like that. So the learners will be, the student will be able to explain, able to understand, explain the ideas or concepts. So that is the second level. And the third level is apply. So we, most of us, when are teaching, let's say, freshman courses, right? So um, for that freshman physics courses, for that we generally uh, ask them solve problems. So that is basically application of what the student, what the learners have understood the concept, right? So execute, right? So by the way, there are specific verbs uh, prescribed by Benjamin Bloom and other experts afterwards. By the way, Bloom and Bloom et al., like so those people at the top here, we see here. So those people gave these the original Bloom's taxonomy. So which is slightly different from this. So this is a kind of revised Bloom's taxonomy given in, I believe, in 2001 by this last author here in the Boxcraft world. So the verbs which we use to write the educational objectives are given here. For example, in apply, execute, implement, solve, use, demonstrate, interpret, operate, schedule, sketch, like that, right? For example, sketch the force between two charged particles if they are separated by certain distance, if, and both of them are, let's say, positive, right? So that kind of like so when they understand the concept, then they will apply. So now the if we go further up, they are more complex in terms of cognitive domain, right? So analyze, draw connections among ideas, like differentiate. For example, if we teach Coulomb's law and Gauss's law, right? So differentiate Coulomb's law from Gauss's law, like that kind of thing. Organize, relate, compare, contrast, distinguish, examine, experiment, question, and test. And then we go to the higher level, next higher level, evaluate, justify, stand or decision, praise, argue, defend, judge, select, support, value, critique, weigh, right? And most the topmost level is create, that is produce a new or original work, like design a project, for example, or design a problem, assemble, construct, conjecture, develop, formulate, author, investigate, right? So when we would like to design our lesson plan on certain topic, right? We write the objectives, the learning outcomes in this framework, and then the next step is we will decide what kind of assessments do we do, and the final step is we design activities. Are we lecturing? Are we giving projects? Giving or implementing some other kinds of learning activities? Okay, so these two are the most important slides in backward design model. There is tons of literature available in the web, right? So, by the way, I acknowledge that I took this from Vanderbilt University Center for Learning. So that is the link. So here I would like to give an example of my own course, how I did backward design model, applied backward design model. To be honest, I am learning day by day. So when these lectures were written, or I will show you in a minute, I was not very uh, aware that I'm designing backward model or not, because I learned from the seniors in my university. And when I started reviewing the literature, and I connected that actually that was backward design, backward course design model. So here I am giving an example on 1 and 2 dimensional motions with constant accelerations. I would like to mention here that I have already taught, before I reach this lesson, I have already taught the concept of displacement, speed, distance, displacement, speed, velocity, acceleration, like that. So after doing that, and also vectors, by the way, and this is my third lesson in my introductory introductory mechanics. So what are the learning outcomes? I said these learning outcomes, which are in the third level of Bloom taxonomy, right? After the completion of this lesson, students will be able to solve problems of uniformly accelerated motion in 1 dimension. The second, solve problems concerning the motion in a plane, including the motion of projectiles in a uniform gravitational field, and solve problems concerning the displacement, velocity, and acceleration of a particle moving along a circular path. So I identified these three learning outcomes for this lesson. Okay. So what were my assessment plans? There are two kinds of assessments in general. Formative assessments, they happen like immediately. Like, so when I teach or do when I give do instruction, right? So I immediately assess, like pre-lecture quizzes, students who watch short videos and do some questions based on the information in the videos before they come to class. So that is before they come to class, right? In class quizzes, like test your understanding, I will show you in my uh, learning activities how I designed that. Think, pair, share, and pop quizzes. Um, by the way, if you review the literature, you'll find that pop quizzes give a lot of stress to the students. So before we administer pop quizzes, we need to some kind of give some kind of tell the students that these pop quizzes are like just to assess, like, so you will not lose much grade and those kind of things. Otherwise, that will create a lot of stress on students. And worksheets, students perform relevant physics simulations and complete worksheet. That is particularly for my studio style teaching. And summative assessments are test and exams. So that is the end of the presentation here. So let me stop sharing, and then if we have any discussions, let's do discussion for a few minutes. And I will now show you the components. Like I already showed you the learning outcomes, right? And I'll show you uh, the assessments and the learning, the instructional activities to achieve those goals, Okay. So as I mentioned, I had in advertisement like in flyers. This is interactive session. So please feel free to share your ideas. Uh, okay. Wait a minute. There is a comment in chat. Sound आएको छैन sir. Uh, is it? Is that right?
I think his sound is fixed, sir.
Oh, okay. Okay. Nice. 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 Thank you so much. So let's do interactions. Please, if you have questions, please put the question in chat or on mute and speak. And if you are experts here, please share your ideas so that this is a kind of learning process, right? And then I'll go back and share the learning activities. Mother sir has raised hand. Mother sir, please, you have a question or you would like to?
No, no, it actually happened uh, by chance.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think I saw a hand raised. ANPA, is that right?
Oh, sir. एउटा सानो, I
Honest,
have a
please.
small question.
Honest, please.
So, I was thinking about, I heard about different ways people learn. Is that part of this, like a, taxonomy, like where, we try to, like teach certain things, right? But does the taxonomy cover that part where we are like trying to address the visual, learner, or somebody needs to learn by touching, feeling? I don't know. There are different kinds of learning.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you so much. Basically, taxonomy gives a kind of the mm, uh, a framework how to write the educational objectives. This is not kind of pedagogical activities. Like so, if I understand correctly, what you mentioned is how everyone learns is different. So this is a kind of to make a kind of uniformity in instructions, right? And a kind of just what is our learning outcomes? What do we want to achieve ultimately, right? So for that matter, we write our learning outcomes in this framework, right? So what is our objective? What do we want? Like do students do we want students like be familiar with Coulomb's law, or they want or we want them to apply Coulomb's law and solve problems, or we want them like do some formulate some kind of problem based on Coulomb's law, go to a kind of higher complexity. So this is a framework uh, to write the learning objectives. Like so, what is learning outcomes? What do we want the students achieve after a particular lesson? Thank you. Uh, uh, Dr. Sigdel,
मैले अलिकति थपौँ एकदम इन्ट्रेस्टिङ कुरा भयो यो भनौँ न मैले बुझेअनुसार
please.
ब्लुम टेक्सोनोमी भनेको यो भोक्याबुलरीहरू भनौँ न वर्डहरू के अरे लर्निङ अब्जेक्टिभहरू लेख्नलाई बनाएको वर्डहरू जस्तै अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड भन्यो भने त भेग भयो नि त
Right.
पहिला 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 हामीले अब टु अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड दिस भनेर लेख्ने चलन थियो गर्थ्यौँ पनि होइन त्यो अब लर्निङ अब्जेक्टिभहरू लेख्दा पनि पछि पछि होइन यो त टु भेग भयो भनेपछि त्यो वर्डहरू के कस्तालाई कस्ता कुरालाई कस्ता वर्डहरू लेख्ने भनेर यो बनाएका जस्तो लाग्यो मलाई चाहिँ
Hazard.
होइन
Thank you so much, Krishnji. That's very nice. Objectives चाहिँ अब भनौँ न दुईवटा, एउटा एक किसिमको चाहिँ अब जेनरल अब्जेक्टिभ्स र अर्को चाहिँ स्पेसिफिक अब्जेक्टिभ. लाइक सो स्टुडेन्टको लाइक जस्तै what Dr. Sigdel mentioned is exactly right. Right. So understand. We don't know how much did a student understand. Right. So that is not kind of specific objective. Right. So understand or know or identify. त्यो चाहिँ एकदमै लोवर लेभलको जेनरल टाइपको भयो तर describe. So give Coulomb's law and ask the students describe Coulomb's law. If student can describe, then student achieved what we wanted from there. Yep. Okay, great. Any other questions? Okay, so we'll discuss definitely. Indra Dev Sahu sir, is that right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yes, please.
So my question is, how do we know that the student, which way student will understand if we deliver something that we wanted to, for example, when you mentioned that to understand or anything, the goal, a specific goal or general goal we want to have them to achieve during the class. But how do we know how they will understand, which way they will grab this idea, whatever we are going to say?
Yeah, okay, that's an excellent question. Thank you, sir. That's an excellent question. Like, so these are, as Dr. Sigdal mentioned, like this is basically a way of writing, a framework of writing learning outcomes. But in what way we make students learn is another completely a different part. That is, I mean, that is a kind of pedagogical activity. Like, so what kind of activities do we adopt so that students learn the given let's say achieve the given activities, given objective, right? So but one thing, if I let me make things clear a bit. We don't know what student understood or knew, like unless we measure that, unless we assess that, right? So we need to assess, and then, like for example, if we ask question and if students respond those questions in a right way, then we know that they understood that, right? But so again, these no understand, these low level skills are kind of general objectives. Like, so we need to measure somehow so that we know that they understood or they learned. But how they learn is a completely different parts. Like, so that is a completely different topic, right? That is what kind of pedagogical activities do we adopt? Like, does one fit all? Of course not, right? So whether we implement this activity or that activity or something else, so that we make like the maximum maximum number of students in the class learn the thing. Of course, we want 100% in ideal environment, right? But it's very challenging.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. So let me share my activities. Like the next step is assessment, right? So let me share my screen one more time. And so there. Let me go to my folder. So the next step is the first one is learning objective. I already showed you the objectives of my learning outcomes of my lesson, one-dimensional motion. And the second one is assessment. So, for example, pre-lecture quizzes. Basically, those I administer in. By the way, the screen seen correctly? Can it be confirmed?
Yeah, we are able to see a screen.
Okay, very nice. Very nice. Thank you so much. So pre-lecture quizzes I administer through, for my course, I administer through Pearson Mastering Physics package. They have, if you are using Pearson Mastering Physics, they have designed short videos, pre-lecture videos. Each video is about less than 10 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. And each, there are 2-3 short questions associated with each video, right? So students watch those videos and do those quizzes. I will show you later if the time permits. So in class quizzes, what are those? Let me show you. So I do short quizzes, like for example, of this kind. I give formulas. I don't ask students memorize the formulas, by the way. So I give the front page. And then I ask these short questions, something like this. Like for example, number one is question number one and question number two are basically they are related to two-dimensional motion, projectile motion, right, which is a constant acceleration motion, right? And question number three is basically circular motion. Okay, so that is one assessment. Okay, some assessment I have embedded in the lecture. For example, let me also show you my lecture. Of course, I'm not uh, going through everything on the lecture, but what I do is this picture is from the textbook. So I pose a question ahead of time. So when I start my lecture, I ask this question. Like the question is, just a second here. Does a drop or a projection make an object reach the ground faster? Right. So why I'm asking this question is they watch pre-lecture video and do some pre-lecture quizzes. And so based on that information, so I pose this question in my lecture. So let me go to, so these are basically objectives and this is the lecture. So that is actually the third part in our backward design model. Lecture is activities actually. But what I'm trying to say here is the probably, let me see, test your understanding. So that is a kind of formative assessment. So when I lecture, so I pause and I ask them question, maybe a minute or so. What are x and y and z in this equation? What are bx, by, and bz in this equation? So these questions are formative assessment. Now, in a large class of like 180 students, it is like as Dr. Sau asks a very nice question. How do we know that student understood our teaching? Right. The problem is if a small class, then we can ask individual students, right? So, and if they answered the question correctly, they understood. But for a large size of, like I'm teaching a class of 144 students starting in on Wednesday next week. Like so, in those large classes, it is very difficult to go one by one. But in general, like when I throw this question, some students answer. Of course, everyone, we want everyone, we want everyone learn this, but uh, like administrative, logistically, it might be difficult. So my point is, the question here embedded like test your understanding is a formative assessment. Okay, so the same way, here is a problem, right? This is next, that is actually in our learning outcomes, solve problem, right? Solve problem, and that is kind of application, right? And again, there is a test your, try the following, that is also kind of formative assessment. And here, test your understanding at the bottom. Is a bomb dropped from a fighter plane a projectile? What's about the plane itself, right? So, so that is a kind of a formative assessment, right? So, and almost on every slide, I have embedded a small. I have put a small question, right? So for the formative assessment, right? So that is the lecture, and there is another question here. Test your understanding. Does an object accelerate in such motion? That means this kind of motion, uniform circular motion. If so, what is the direction of acceleration? Right. So that is that. And so this, what I am showing here is the second and the third step in backward design model. The second step is uh, uh, determine your uh, assessment technique, right? So formative assessment, right? And in this case, and uh, the activities are basically lectures here. Okay, and the uh, next one is like pop quizzes. I already showed you, and for think, pair, share. For example, here is a question, right? So a simple question: think, pair, share. So in this picture, right? So I usually administer using polleverywhere.com. So that is a software which has been purchased by my university, my library, so I can use that. So if you don't have that access, still we can do things per se. Before I use that software, I used to use like I'll show you a card, like how can we do low technology way. So here is a question, for example, for think, pair, share. A boy is playing in a swing as shown in the figure to the right. What is the direction of his acceleration at the lowest point of the swing? Vertically down, vertically up, in the forward direction, in the backward direction, right? So in think, pair, share, what the students do is when the question is posed on the board, on the screen, they are allowed to think for a minute and they are allowed to vote, right? Vote. A low technology method, let me show you a voting technique. If the card is voting card is here, so you can make a simple card like this, A, B, C, D, like this, and make fold the card. We'll do this in some future meetings. Right, fold the card, and if the student decides that the answer is A, the student will hold the card showing A toward the instructor, like right in front of him or her or them, so that none of the other student will see. So that the student, how does that help the student answer the question is, student will not like other students will not see his or her or their answer, so they are comfortable to demonstrate what they think, right? So that is for low technology method of think, pair, share. So I do that. So that is another assessment, and uh, the same way uh, I also do for the assessment as well as the activities. Since I do studio style teaching using the simulations, I call technology based activities. So students come with their laptop or cell phones and they do simulations and they answer these questions. So this worksheet uh, serves two purposes. One is this worksheet is designed for as an activity, and this is also is graded, right? By the way, there is a kind of discussion, debate whether graded work is assessment or not, right? And some people say that graded work can be considered as assessment, right? Some people say no, but I am considering these worksheet. I am applying these worksheets in for two purposes: activities as well as assessment. So what do they do? Let me quickly show you this simulation quickly, just to confirm. Can this Quizlet physics that page is seen? Can it be seen? Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
You
Okay.
are able to see.
Okay. Thank you. So here there are questions. So students basically play, and this is basically the study of projectile motion, two-dimensional motion. And there are different questions related to the blue ball, the brown ball, and the red ball. And they compare, they study the motion by themselves, study these graphs, and answer these questions. I I am assisted with 3 peer learning assistants who are pedagogically trained. I also run physics pedagogy class in my department, right? So they are trained pedagogically, and content wise they are trained every Monday. We have meeting for 1 hour, right? And so this is another assessment, right? So this is something about backward designing course design model, right? So uh, uh, if like I recommend do backward design model if you have time. But again, uh, I would also like to alert you that if you are uh, new as a faculty, uh, please don't try to use everything at the same time. That makes sometimes life difficult, right? So that's the end of my presentation. So we have uh, time now to discuss. If you have any questions uh, or anything, please share. Thank you.
सर नमस्ते मलाई एउटा सानो क्विक क्वेसन छ सर
Vishnu sir, please, what is that?
सर यो क्विज चाहिँ कति मिनट लाउँ हाउ लङ इज अ क्विज लाइक अ होल 50 मिनट लङ or 10 minute long or 25 minutes
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thank you for asking. Pop quiz हो भने चाहिँ 5 to 10 minutes. Pop quiz हो भने 5 to 10 minutes. तर त्यो चाहिँ लार्ज क्लासमा अप्लाई गर्न चाहिँ गाह्रो हुन्छ, किनभने 5 मिनट त क्वेसन बाँड्दा बाँड्दै जान्छ
या
होइन, कम्ती 2 मिनट 3 मिनट जान्छ। त्यसले गर्दाखेरि हामीले के गर्छौँ भने लार्ज क्लासलाई वी स्प्लिट इन्टु डिस्कसन सेसन्स. इच डिस्कसन सेसन इज अराउन्ड 25 to 30 people, राइट? त्यसमा लार्ज क्लासमा चाहिँ त्यस्तो क्विज इम्प्लिमेन्ट गर्दा चाहिँ अलिक त्यो म्यानेज गर्न गाह्रो हुन्छ। त्यसले गर्दा त्यो अघि मैले देखाएको क्विज चाहिँ फर्मेटिभ एसेसमेन्ट, त्यो चाहिँ क्विक क्विज हो, त्यो चाहिँ पप क्विज, त्यो चाहिँ 10 मिनट्स लामो। किनभने तपाईँको अब क्लासमा भर पर्छ। मेरो जस्तै मैले 50 मिनट्सको क्लास पढाउँछु, अब 50 मिनट्समा नै क्विज एडमिनिस्टर गरेँ भने मलाई आई निड टु म्यानेज सेभरल थिङ्स देयर। तर मेरो अर्को स्टुडियो रुममा क्लास रुममा भने चाहिँ 110 मिनट लामो, 1 घन्टा 50 मिनट लामो हुन्छ। त्यसमा चाहिँ म आई क्यान म्यानेज मोर थिङ्स देयर, एन्ड दोज क्लासेस आर ओन्ली ट्वाइस अ विक। त्यो चाहिँ डिफ्रेन्ट क्लास हो। अहिले भनौँ न मैले 50 मिनट क्लास गर्ने क्लासमा चाहिँ, त्यो लार्ज क्लासमा चाहिँ म त्यस्तो क्विज भन्दा पनि आई विल डु थिङ्क पेयर। अघि हाम्रो Dr. Sau asks very nice question. Like, so again, I would like to repeat the same thing, that we need to be very careful, like what kind of techniques can work. Like, so see, I am doing, I thought that I would be successful to make every students learn, but my assumption was wrong. Because when I see my teaching evaluation, 85 to 90% students are happy there. I could not make 100% students happy. What does that mean? That means that those other students learn in a different way. Their learning style is different. I tell you already, what kind of pedagogical techniques do we follow? In future episodes, we'll do about pedagogical techniques and like that. राइट? तर एउटै टेक्निकले चाहिँ सबै स्टुडेन्टलाई ह्याप्पी बनाउन सकिँदैन।
Sir, one more quick question, sir. In your slide, I saw you wrote a question, and there are 3 or 4 options, and students have to choose one correct answer, right? So, is it
Yes.
possible to give them just a question and they have to write their own answer without giving them options? I mean,
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's right. So I understand. So that means completely open, right? Open. You don't want to give choice, right?
right.
Yeah. So that is a kind of, that would be nice, but I mean, it is very difficult to administer. It is very difficult. It is okay. You know, I think Dr. Dongara is here, so he's very expert in open inquiry labs, right? So this kind of open inquiry things are very nice, right? So my options are already making a kind of narrowing down on the question, but open administering that kind of open inquiry is excellent thing, but it is very challenging. Like so, yeah, I mean we can do that.
Okay, may take more time.
That's right.
Thank you.
That's right. That's right. Any other
Sir,
questions, please?
sir, namaskar. Sir, am I being audible, sir?
Yes,
Sir,
please,
namaskar.
please.
Sir, namaskar. It was
सरलाई
really a
हामी यहाँ सबै हामी नेपाली स्पिकर नै छौँ सबै, सरलाई जसरी कम्फर्टेबल हुन्छ त्यसरी सोध्नु होला है सर, प्लिज.
sir. Thank you, sir. Sir, मैले यो think peer and shareमा चाहिँ just I did not went through the literature review on this think peer and share, but what I had a tendency to just like understand is यो think peer and share भनेको चाहिँ एउटा ग्रुप जस्तोमा राखेर अनि उनीहरूलाई एज अ डिस्कसन होइन पियरिङको कुरा आयो नि त सर. सो म चाहिँ के गर्थेँ भन्दाखेरि 6जनालाई राख्यो थिङ्क पियर एन्ड सेयर भनेर. अब यो प्र्याक्टिस चाहिँ राइट भयो कि रङ, जस्ट आइएम गोइङ टु आस्क यु, किनभने हजुरले चाहिँ त्यो भोटिङ जस्तो कार्ड भएको थियो. मैले त्यो ग्रुपमा 6जना राख्ने होइन, अनि उनीहरू बिच डिस्कसन गराउने अनि सेयर गराउने कुरा गर्थेँ कि सर यो थिङ्क पियर एन्ड सेयरमा.
Right. So yeah,
Okay.
I mean
So
that
is
is
that
one
just
excellent, very good. Thank you for sharing. So that is one way of think pair share. मैले यहाँ think pair share चाहिँ यो I believe it was started by someone in University of Maryland in 1980s. र यसलाई चाहिँ एउटा के भन्दो रहेछ भने यसलाई ब्रोड अम्ब्रेला भित्र राख्ने भने कोअपरेटिभ अर कोलाबोरेटिभ लर्निङ भन्छ होइन. त्यो भनेको चाहिँ थिङ्क भनेको चाहिँ जस्तै मैले क्वेसन पोज गरेँ, जस्तै सरले क्वेसन पोज गर्नुभयो भने स्टुडेन्ट इन्डिभिजुअली थिङ्क्स, उसले इन्डिभिजुअली थिङ्क गर्छ त्यो क्वेसनको विषयमा. जस्तै भनौँ न, when I throw a ball vertically upward, what is the acceleration of the ball at the maximum height? इन्डिभिजुअल स्टुडेन्टले थिङ्क गर्ने भयो, अनि त्यसपछि उसलाई भोटिङ गर्न लाउने, भोटिङ गर्न लगाउने स्टुडेन्टहरूलाई सबैलाई भोटिङ गर्न लाउने र त्यो रिजल्ट हेर्ने, क्विकली स्क्यान गर्ने, त्यो कार्ड युज गरेर लो टेक्नोलोजी कार्ड क्विकली स्क्यान गर्ने. अनि मैले चाहिँ इन जेनरल 75% भन्दा माथि आयो भने चाहिँ द्याट्स ग्रेट, होइन भने अनि के गर्ने भने अनि उनीहरूको साइड बाई साइड भएकोलाई सेयर गर्न लाउने. साइड भनेको जस्तै मानौँ अब डिपेन्डिङ अपन वाट काइन्ड अफ सिटिङ एरेन्जमेन्ट इज देयर, भनौँ न अब राउन्ड टेबलमा छ भने ओके गाइज यु क्यान सेयर डिस्कस अमङ योर सेल्फ भनेर डिस्कस गर्न लाउने. अनि फेरि अबाउट अ मिनट जति दिएर डिस्कस गर्न लगाएपछि ओके आर यु रेडी, भोट अगेन भनेपछि त्यो भोटिङ गर्यो, त्यो सेयर गरेपछि भोटिङ गर्यो. See,
Okay, sir.
whether
I
the
got to know
result
it
is
now, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir. So, alikati, very insight. Yeah, thank you, sir. I got to
त्यसले
know.
चाहिँ अनि त्यसले चाहिँ रिजल्ट इम्प्रुभ गर्यो कि गरेन, गर्यो. अनि त्यसपछि फाइनल्ली pick one person from the group. Now share whatever you guys discussed in the group, share your idea to the class. So think pair share भनेको सरले भन्नुभएको अमङ द ग्रुपमा पनि स्टुडेन्टहरूको बिचमा पनि सेयर भयो, द्याट्स एन एक्सलेन्ट थिङ. तर थिङ्क पेयर सेयरमा मैले चाहिँ के भन्दैछु भने इन्डिभिजुअल थट्स, त्यसपछि दे विल सेयर and then they pair discuss, and then finally they share to the class with everyone. त्यो भनेको सर.
Thank you, sir. I found that it will be more effective if we have a longer period of class. That means the duration of the class should be a little bit longer. It will be much more effective.
That's right. So yeah, we need to be very careful on time management.
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you.
And the next thing, sir,
Please.
can I ask, sir, another
of course.
another question? And this question is actually it's not related to the discussion today, but I'd like to have discussion on this one as I'm finding problem. It's like in order to know whether the students are learning from us or they are learning the subject or the topic that we are teaching. as sir mentioned, and as I also think that the correct way is to assess them. However, जति पनि ग्रुप हुन्छ नि सर, 30जनाको ग्रुपको प्रत्येक इन्डिभिजुअललाई एसेस गर्नलाई चाहिँ अलिकति टाइम कन्ज्युमिङ हुँदो रहेछ होइन सर. सो आई थिङ्क इट्स नट अहिले अलिकति यो डिस्कसन गर्न मिल्छ भने आई थिङ्क इट विल बी युजफुल फर अल द टिचर्स. कसरी एसेस चाहिँ यो इन्डिभिजुअल एसेस इफेक्टिभ तरिकाले चाहिँ हामी कसरी गर्न सक्छौँ होला सर? किनभने मलाई कस्तो लाग्छ भने लेक्चर पनि बढाउनै पर्ने हुन्छ, लेसन प्लान पनि बनाउनै पर्ने हुन्छ. सो टिचर विल बी मोर ह्याक्टिक कि, अनि उनीहरूले असाइनमेन्ट्सहरू राम्ररी चेक नगर्न सकिन्छ हामीहरू एज अ टिचर इफ यु थिङ्क अबाउट द्याट वान. So how can yes,
yeah, that's an excellent question with difficult answer. It has not an easy answer. किनभने मेरो क्लासमा मैले लास्ट इयर चाहिँ म भनौँ न यो स्टुडियो स्टाइलमा मैले 2018देखि मैले पढाउँदै आएको छु. म ट्वाइस अ इयर पढाउँछु, भनेको 3 times a year एक्चुअली समरमा पनि पढाउँछु. त्यसमा चाहिँ हाम्रो चाहिँ यो 7 weeks को टर्म हुन्छ. त्यसमा चाहिँ मैले म्यान पावरको लागि चाहिँ मैले I have asked peer learning assistants, that means undergraduate students who already took those courses and excelled in the course. They are pedagogically trained and they are also trained on the content. र त्यो स्टुडेन्टहरूले चाहिँ मलाई असिस्ट गर्छ. अनि त्यसले गर्दाखेरि अब इन्डिभिजुअलको एसेसमेन्ट चाहिँ कसरी हुन्छ भन्दाखेरि अब त्यसमा उनीहरूले जस्तै मैले वर्कसिट्स देखाएँ, स्टुडेन्टहरूले चाहिँ त्यो गरेर सब्मिट गर्छन् र इन द्याट नाइट दि 144 भनौँ न त्यो सब्मिसन्सलाई चाहिँ 3 भागमा बाँडेर 3जना पियर लर्निङ असिस्टेन्टले ग्रेड गर्छ र उनीहरूले फिडब्याक दिन्छ, त्यहाँ कमेन्ट लेख्छ, दिस इज राइट, द्याट रङ अर वाट, क्विक कमेन्ट. र आफ्टरवर्ड्स म एकछिन एउटा सानो कुरा सेयर गर्नु. सरले एकदम इन्ट्रेस्टिङ क्वेसन सोध्नुभयो, म यो सानो कुरा देखाएँ. अनि मैले त्यसपछि के गर्छु, स्टुडेन्टहरूले त्यो ग्रेडिङ गरेर पोस्ट गरिसकेपछि आई आस्क द स्टुडेन्ट्स टु कम्पेयर देयर आन्सर्स विथ माई आन्सर्स. होइन म चाहिँ मेरो मैले यो सोल्युसन्सहरू पोस्ट गरिदिन्छु. दिज आर माई सोल्युसन्स. यो स्क्रिन देखिन्छ सर?
we are able to view, sir. Yes, sir.
थ्याङ्क यू,
Yes,
थ्याङ्क
sir.
यू. अनि म यो सोल्युसन्सहरू पोस्ट गर्छु र मैले चाहिँ ग्रेडरलाई के भन्छु भने इफ द स्टुडेन्ट्स ह्याभ आइडिया टुवर्ड्स दि आई मिन टुवर्ड्स द करेक्ट आन्सर छ भने गिभ देम क्रेडिट, एटलिस्ट दे टु इन्करेज देम, एन्ड बट स्टिल गिभ देम क्रेडिट बट राइट सम कमेन्ट, compare your solution with the solution posted or something like that. त्यसले गर्दाखेरि सरले जुन क्वेसन सोध्नुभयो द्याट वी निड गुड म्यान पावर, ह्युमन रिसोर्सेस हामीलाई चाहिन्छ. अब त्यो चाहिँ सरलाई म के रेकमेन्ड गर्छु भने सरले 3जना स्टुडेन्टलाई ट्रेन गर्नुहोस्. सरले 3जना स्टुडेन्टलाई ट्रेन गर्नुहोस्. मैले लास्ट इयर 2 वर्ष अगाडि एउटा पेडागोजी वर्कसप गर्दाखेरि, त्रिभुवन युनिभर्सिटीको पेडागोजी वर्कसप गर्दाखेरि मैले यो रेकमेन्ड गरेको थिएँ. 3जना विद्यार्थीहरूलाई एउटा क्लासमा 3जना विद्यार्थीलाई सरले स्पेसल टाइम दिएर एन्थुजियास्टिक स्टुडेन्टहरूलाई ट्रेन गर्नुहोस्. अनि त्यसपछि उनीहरूलाई चाहिँ युज गर्नु, उनीहरू इन्करेज पनि हुन्छ, उनीहरूले प्राउड पनि फिल गर्छ. त्यस्तो भयो भने मैले आई एम इन्स्ट्रक्टर टाइपको फिलिङ पनि हुन्छ. त्यसले गर्दा यो हाम्रो पियर लर्निङ असिस्टेन्टको आइडिया चाहिँ त्यही हो. बट they are paid in the universities, they are paid. It depends, like if the school can pay, that would be fantastic. They also make some pocket money, and they are also trained. One thing I would like to repeat here is the teaching assistant, peer learning assistants, even if they are trained by you or trained by me or trained by, or if they have already let's say they have already excelled the course, but from the feedback they have given to me, they say that they learn better. They learn better after teaching, which is right, because I never learned science in high school. I'm teaching physics now. So then we learn by teaching, right? So there is a saying, If you want to test whether you learned or not, teach a child. Teach a
Yes,
child.
sir.
If you make a child learn, then you are a perfect teacher. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. So the next question, sir, regarding the completion of our lesson plan, sir. Sir, am I being audible, sir?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir.
Yeah.
So during the we have got a class duration of around 45 minutes, and then during that session of 45 minutes, I also am practicing the pre-quiz. However, that will be conducted in the class itself before the start of the lecture for around 5 or 6 minutes. Though we plan it for 5 or 6 minutes, but as you analyze it, or as you go through the evaluation and as you give the feedback, it takes around 10 to 15 minutes. And then lecture, after the end of the lecture, actually my lesson plan doesn't end because I'm not able to finish it on time. So I have to see the watch, and before the end of my session, before 5 minutes, then I would like to go through again the quiz that I have taught them during that session. So within that 45 minutes, 5 minutes will be for the ending concepts, to understand whether they have understood my lecture or not. So that 5 minutes will be given there, and around 10 to 15 minutes will be provided upfront itself. So I do have only around 30 minutes or 25 minutes. So that's really, I'm really finding it hard to finish my syllabus on time.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, I mean, here is a now big question. So, yeah, in a different environment, in different context, right? So, for example, we have a pre-designed syllabus in Nepal, right? So we have to finish that, right? So that kind of constraint, like, so we need to be very, very careful, like how to manage on that. So you are absolutely right. So if you give quiz every day, probably we'll be lagging behind, like, so how to finish the syllabus, right? So the time management is another very important component while in the class. So we need to pay attention to that too, right? So there is, there is that is another separate meeting for us. Like, so we'll talk probably one day about time management, how to manage a class, something like that. But that, yeah, I completely understand. So it is very difficult. Like, if we implement every component what I demonstrated today in every class, that is hard. That is hard. We need to be.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your insights, sir. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. Any other questions, please? Okay, so if we do not have any question, probably, sir, please stop. I think we will stop the recording, and then we do informal talk for a while.
Okay. So I'm going to stop the recording, okay?
Yeah, thank you so much.